Good afternoon. In the absence of a chair and a vice chair, I call the July 24, 2025 Measure G Oversight Committee meeting to order. City meetings may be observed live on the Salinas channel on YouTube, Zoom, or Comcast Channel 25. Zoom webinar participation is available for members of the public. The Zoom webinar ID and link are available on the posted agenda on the city website. We will now be proceeding with the consideration item of election of chair and vice chair due to the current absence of the chair and vice chair. At this time, pursuant to Section 7 of the City of Salinas Uniform Bylaws for City Commissions, Committees, and Boards, the Measure G Oversight Committee may choose to elect a new chair and vice chair that will serve until the next committee election during the July 2026 meeting. Committee members are welcome to nominate other individuals or self-nominations. We welcome nominations for chair first, and then we'll go ahead and proceed with nominations for vice chair. Would any committee member like to nominate themselves or an individual for chair? Can we speak into the mic?
I nominate Jacob. That you accept.
Yeah, say it, yeah.
Can I get a second for the nomination of committee member Sandoval?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments regarding the nomination of committee member Sandoval as chair? Seeing none, I'll proceed with the roll call vote. Committee member Caballero?
Yes.
Committee member Field?
Here.
It would be yes or no.
Sorry. Yes, I vote for Jacob.
Committee member Noroyan?
Yes.
Committee member Sandoval?
Yes.
Committee member Salai?
Yes.
Motion pass. We will go ahead and proceed with nominations of vice chair at this time.
I nominate Jordan for vice chair.
Can I get a second for the nomination of committee member Caballero as vice chair?
Second.
Any questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and proceed with roll call vote. Committee member Caballero?
Yes.
Committee member Field?
Yes.
Committee member Noroyan?
Yes.
Committee member Sandoval?
Yes.
Committee member Salai?
Yes.
Motion pass. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to now proceed to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can please stand, please. Okay, we're going to move on to roll call, please.
Committee member Caballero?
Here.
Committee member Field?
Here.
Committee member Noroyan? Committee member Salmina? Committee member Salai?
Here.
Chair Sandoval?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, general public comment. We are now open for public comment on items that are not on the agenda that are in the City of Salinas subject matter jurisdiction. Public comments generally are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. I may further limit that time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule. Do we have any public comments today? Okay, seeing as there's no public comments, we're going to move on to the next item. For consideration, it's ID 25-287, review of independent audit reports.
Good afternoon, Selena Andrews, Finance Director. As you may recall from the staff report, the Measure G appointed a subcommittee on January 16th, 2025, and staff provided the 2024 draft audit to the subcommittee on March 13th, 2025. And on April 2nd, staff provided the final 2024 audit to the subcommittee. And the audit or the report is expected to be presented to this committee for approval to move forward and be presented to City Council. However, I understand that the report may not be ready today, and so it can be presented in the next meeting that we'll have here.
And just to clarify, this is the report by the subcommittee from our board, right, as far as their review of the audit?
Correct.
Okay, so we're just waiting on our committee to complete that report.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item, which is administrative reports. It's ID 25-286, June 30th, 2025, financial reports.
Good afternoon, committee members. A. Pedroza, Assistant Finance Director. This is the Measure G fiscal year 24-25 quarter 4 financial report as of June 30th. Per our normal process, please note the numbers are unaudited, and I do want to point out that the city continues to incur final payroll expenditures and fiscal year 24-25 invoices as part of the normal year-end accounts payable process. This is the operating budget versus actuals, both revenue and expenditures, and we have some exciting news regarding the format of the reporting provided. In addition to a staff report being included, which provides context to the programs and projects being funded by Measure G, we have also reverted back to showing the detail on screen now as opposed to the summary by department. We hope this avoids confusion, as you will see the various revenue types, a list of expenditures by program, division, or activity, itemized transfers, and CIP expenditures identified by individual project. Moving on to the quarterly report, the first section is revenue. We are showing 84% received for the transactions and use tax revenue and 85% overall. These figures only reflect the months of July through April due to the timing of when we receive payment from the state. The benchmark for 10 out of 12 months is 83%, so we're coming in just ahead of pace with May revenues expected to be received shortly. The investment earnings line is trending significantly better than the budgeted amounts, and we have therefore adjusted our fiscal year 25-26 projections accordingly. The next few sections are expense by department with nothing of concern identified. Administration and human resources are shown on this slide. As we scroll through, please note that divisions can go over budget as long as they remain on budget by department. Finance, community development, and police are shown on this slide. And again, additional expenditures will be posted in the coming weeks. This slide details finance and public works operating budgets, showing the various divisions that are funded, at least in part, by Measure G. Here we have the recreation budget with the various divisions. Before transfers, Measure G spending for the city is at 90% of the budgeted amount as of June 30th. This section is non-departmental expenditures. Capital projects is at 25% transferred and will be discussed in the next slide. Then we have transfers out to the local housing trust fund per council action and transfers to fund debt service, mainly the police services building. The transfers out to internal service funds are 100%. These include property insurance, fleet maintenance, vehicle replacement, and general liability. Overall, Measure G spending for the city is at 64% of the budgeted amount as of June 30th. And as you can see, the capital projects budget definitely skews the overall budget spent downwards. Any unspent capital project funds will be carried over to next fiscal year. This is the capital improvement program budget versus actuals as of May 31st. Due to the normal 1-month lag for finance staff to complete the reimbursement process, there are 37 projects with Measure G funding for a total of $29.4 million. The current budget was established from carryover of unspent prior year allocations in addition to current year appropriations per council action. Shown on this slide is community development, police, and fire department CIPs. Here we have public works projects showing 82% spent. Significant activity has occurred in a number of projects, including the industrial waste treatment facility, flood damage repairs, Baranda Road, and the street preventative maintenance program. These are the Recreation Department projects. The District 5 Recreation Center was recently appropriated by Council. In total, Measure G CIPs are 62% spent or encumbered at this time. As I mentioned, remaining funds will be carried over to next fiscal year. And next, we will highlight various projects being funded by Measure G.
Thank you, Selena Andrews, Finance Director. So some of these projects funded by Measure G are included in your staff report as well as additional projects. So we have the Chinatown Navigation Center Sprung Shelter, and that supports the operations of the Chinatown Navigation Center by providing case management, shelter housing, and assistance to continue to move individuals toward permanent housing. Also, the LSL Vibrancy Plan, which its purpose is to communicate the collective vision for those that live, work, and visit in the LSL area. The plan prioritizes short-term activities and parks, open space within LSL, and promotes economic development. A couple other projects listed here, the soccer field, Cesar Chavez Park, and that project has been completed and is anticipated to be accepted by council in August of this year. And so there's also a street preventative maintenance. That project was awarded by council in June 2025 and is anticipated to begin this late summer. This project includes 16 roadway segments, approximately 23 lane miles of roadway. And maintenance includes crack treatment, asphalt and patch repair, asphalt overlay, and full depth reclamation. Measures E and G, Measure X, and ARPA funds were used to fund this project, or are being used. There's also playground improvements, and this is funding for various repairs within playgrounds, and 4 new playgrounds have been installed, also using Measures E, G, and ARPA funds. And lastly, the District 5 Rec Center feasibility study is currently underway, and the study is expected to be completed in October-November timeframe of this year as well. So with that, staff is available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report. We'll start to my left if there's any questions from the committee.
I was just going to say thank you for the modifications since the last meeting. Definitely easier to understand. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Since this is my first meeting, I'd have no questions.
Okay, and then just for myself, it's more for the public. CIP stands for Capital Improvement Projects, right? So when you guys are mentioning that, and I know some people sometimes get concerned when they hear the word unaudited, but typically just for the public's audited reports don't get done until you guys close out the books and they get submitted to an auditor, and that's when they become audited reports.
Correct, and that's an external auditor, so it's not city staff auditing our financials.
Right, yeah, just for the public. I know sometimes we get questions as far as, why does it say unaudited? Have you not looked at it? But that's the reason why it's a little bit different, so.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no other questions for myself? Any questions?
All right, I have several questions. So it says Measure G funds the Code Enforcement Division, all 10 positions, is that right?
That is correct.
And it says that there are 2 vacancies. They've been recently posted. And so what happens to positions that are funded but not filled? What happens to that money?
So those funds remain within the year that they're approved, and if they don't get filled, then that fund will go back to the fund balance. So the originating fund balance, if Measure G funds were used, then that funding will go back to the fund balance.
So the city council recently increased the code enforcement budget by $335,000 by contracting with an outside agency. They started at 250 and they added another 85,000. Did that come from Measure G?
The additional funding, I'll have to double check on that. But yes, that is correct. That is what happened. And most of that funding was also included in the prior year budget. It was increased a little bit in 25-26, but I'll have to double check if that additional funding is also being funded by Measure G.
Can I ask a question about police?
Yes.
So we had a report earlier that said that Measure G funds 106.5 positions. Is that still the same, just overall 106.5 positions?
We're going to double check on that.
And 29 of them were police. Is that still all the same?
That is correct. Thank you.
Are all the police positions that are funded, are they filled, or do we have vacancies?
The chief is here to speak to his vacancies. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Chief
fine.
Acosta,
How are
thank
you?
you. So we do have some vacancies that are not all filled.
And so at one of the meetings, they talked about that we used to have 171 officers, and now we have our positions, and now we have 157, and that there are only 108 that are available at any one time because of various reasons. And you are trying to build up the number of officers that we have, both sworn and administrative. And so where are we in that effort, I guess? Because we want to be helpful to, because one of the main reasons that people voted for Measure E originally and voted for Measure G was for public safety and for police. I think there's a great need for more police. I think we all agree with that. So can you give us a status as to where we are with that and how Measure G is helping you?
So absolutely, Measure G is very helpful. So we're authorized, funded 157 positions. So we only have 144. So out of those 144, we have 7 that are currently in the academy. And so we're down 13 positions. And I don't have that information with me now, but out of those 144, 7 are in the academy, so that's minus those 7. And then we do have approximately 9 to 12 officers that are out on various reasons for injuries, leave, family leave, or et cetera. So we are trying to build a robust recruiting team this year. Since my appointment in November of 24, we've hired 7 laterals. I'm technically considered a lateral. And then we have quite a few recruit officers in the police academy. So it's going to take some time for us to grow that team, but we're certainly doing everything we can. We have a new Aura board assessment workshop that we do. We're attending, obviously, a lot of community events and really building a strong recruiting website. We're currently working with iHeartRadio and a few other measures to make sure that we're recruiting as best as we can.
So you have funded but unfilled positions from Measure G. So it would not make any more sense to give you more money from Measure G because you're not able to use the amount of money that we have set aside for you right now through recruitment challenges. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know if it's a fair statement. We can always use funding for these positions, but what I will say is we were at a point at 171 officers, 187 officers. I keep hearing different variations of numbers. We need to be at least 200 and beyond. So any funding is certainly going to be appreciated. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to hire 44 or 24 officers right now at this time, but we are making some really good progress this year alone. Just to give you an example, in 2024, we hired 1 lateral, I believe, and in 2023, I think we hired 2. So we are 3/4 of the way, almost through the year, and we've hired 7 so far since November of 24. So hopefully we're going to obviously make some really good progress in those perspectives about when it comes to positions.
So as a resident, I'm torn. I don't want to park money where it's not used when there are all these other needs that we have. So on the one hand, how do you support the police but not park money that's not being used or can't be used for recruitment challenges, if that makes any sense?
Absolutely, it does. And look, we are an equal partner in this big pie of funding with other departments, but I think Selena can speak more on where that, relocation costs are going, right? And helping other departments where that money is being spent. I also do have 4 frozen positions as well. So money is certainly welcome in this department as we start to grow, but it's certainly appreciative to work with other department heads and certainly spread that money around.
All right, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. Is the fire person here today, the fire chief? Can I ask a question of the fire chief?
Absolutely.
So it says that there are 8 positions here funded through Measure G, and I know that the City Council recently listened to your report saying that we had we're not at the national average for response times, and you were looking for greater support so that we could get the fire department and the paramedics to respond at a faster rate. What would that look like in terms of positions and in terms of ways that Measure G could help you?
It's staffing to add unit hours. We have a need shown through data that shows our response times increase over years, right, with the increase in call volume. So physically putting another fire engine on the street that's staffed and getting ready for Fire Station 7, that data shows us we're ready for Fire Station 7, probably ready for Fire Station 8. So it's simply more pieces of equipment with staffing. So 3 more captains positions, 3 more engineers positions, and 3 more firefighter positions.
So a total of 9 more.
Yes, we do have a SAFER grant. Let me qualify the firefighter statement. We were successful in getting a $4.6 million SAFER grant a couple years ago. We were able to hire the firefighters, the 9 firefighters, and additionally we overhired on top of that to account for some of the issues that were explained by Chief Acosta. Right, we always have a certain amount of people that are injured, off, family leave, sorts of things like that. So it's an overtime balancing exercise, but also as through attrition, when we have retirements, we dip into that pool of overtime or of overhires. So we can keep our staffing numbers fairly level. So we have the firefighters right now to do that, but when we look forward, a couple years, as again, retirements and attrition and who we have on the bench, so to speak, then we hire firefighters behind them. So, but definitely the promotable captain's positions and engineer's position to put another fire engine on the street.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Can I speak to the parks and library person? Hi, I'm sorry. I'm not that good with names. I'm sorry.
Kristen Lundquist, Library and Community Services Director.
Fantastic. Thank you. Can I ask about the Recreation Center for District 5?
Sure.
So I'm from District 5, and I'm a great fan of my City Council member Sandoval trying to get our fair share of services and dollars coming to District 5. We've been known as the forgotten district, and I hope that's not true. I hope that's just a myth. And so I like that money is coming back to District 5. However, there's no parking where you want to put the rec center, and we've been receiving requests for surveys that seem to want to generate a need. So how have you decided that a rec center is needed as opposed to generating the need? Does that make sense? How did you decide that you needed a rec center in District 5? Is it just the absence that there isn't one?
So it's the absence of not having access to a recreation facility in District 5. Along with that is public restrooms. There are no public restrooms in any of the parks out there in that district. And so it's looking at how we can expand service to the north, because that's where we have a gap in service.
And the final cost is $8 million. Will all $8 million come from Measure G?
No, so the City Council allocated the $8.1 million, and it's spread between Measure E and Measure G. So there's a portion that's coming out of Measure E as well.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Can I talk to the Public Works guy? Is he gone? Oh, he's gone. All right. Oh, there's the Public Works guy. Mr. Jacobs, can I ask you some questions? Can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Okay. So, the way I understand it, the pavement plan moving forward in District 5 will only address Laurel, Main, and Davis. And the through streets that generate a lot of the traffic, like Adams, Madrid, Alvin, are not to be touched at all for the next 5 years. Do I understand that correctly?
I wouldn't know in terms of specifics about District 5. I know what we do is when we get money, we allocate it per the council's direction, their policy for streets, and we do try to put the projects in an area so that the contractor is not traveling all the way throughout the city. So we'll do 2 districts and possibly a portion of a third as long as they're in the same area. And then the next year we'll do another section and keep them confined, and that way we get a better price from contractors. If you try to spread it citywide every year, the contractor's moving from one side of the city to the next side of the city, and that tends to increase the cost. So we try to minimize their travel time when they're doing projects. And I don't we look at the city as a whole and not necessarily as a district until it's their time for a project.
And then it says that you paid for 66 ADA ramps at the corner there from Measure G. Do you know what that is out of the total need?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
First meeting, and I have no questions.
No. And before we go to public comments, Councilmember Caballero had a question.
Yeah, Selena, if you could just speak to you mentioned the study for the community center. Could you just speak more to kind of the plan for that study and the timing, and then also the timing for the project and how they're connected?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. So we are in the middle of doing a feasibility study for Northgate Park to evaluate best placement for a recreation center and a variety of other amenities to include potentially parking, to include potentially a standalone restroom, more organized ball fields, things of that nature. So we've completed one round of our first phase of outreach. And our consultants are going back now, and based on the information that we received, which included the survey, a meeting, as well as pop-up activities, they're coming up with some conceptual designs of what the park could look like in the future. We anticipate having the feasibility study completed by the end of the year. And then we'll take it from there at that point. And that feasibility study will have conceptual plans. It'll have some high-level cost estimates as well. So it's really that starting point for us to move that project forward into construction.
Thank you. And once you have all of that in place, considering you've done similar things throughout the city, what is the timeline typically once you have that information you'll be getting from the study to completion of a project?
So there will still need to be additional phases. This conceptual designs will have to get into construction and drawings and that kind of a thing. I suspect David, or my counterpart's not here, we're still probably a good 18 months, 3 years?
Because the design would take anywhere from 12 months to 18 months, because you have to select a consultant to do design work. That consultant has to go and actually do the design. We got to get the design approved, then we have to go out and bid, and depending on what is actually constructed out there, if it's just an actual wood frame building, or is it a modular building or something to that effect, that affects the time frame. So I think the earliest you would see anything would be 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we can move on to public comments on this agenda item. Do you have any public comments on this agenda item? Is there any online? No? Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to final comments from committee members, if there's any final comments. We'll start with my left.
I'll just thank everyone who presented today for your hard work, and the information is definitely digestible, so we appreciate that. And the importance of getting the word out about continuing this funding, because a lot of the projects that the council and the oversight committees and the staff has worked on for all these years, we'd hate to see any of that funding change as some of these projects are finally coming to fruition. So we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And I encourage committee members, even after the meeting, if there's follow-up questions or comments, you can always email the city clerk, because I know we don't meet for a couple of months. So even for the new committee members, after you get a chance to digest the meeting, that's always a good practice as well. Any final comments?
I always like to remind what we voted on. So we voted to improve our quality of life, maintain and enhance city services and facilities, including crime and gang prevention, neighborhood policing and school safety, safety inspections, police, fire, and paramedic response, fixing potholes, streets, and sidewalks, recreation, and programs for youth and seniors, and other city services. So the reason why I asked all those questions is because I'm wondering whether we have a scattershot approach where we're trying to meet a whole bunch of needs and wants. And I wonder whether we have the right balance of distinguishing between have-to-haves and nice-to-haves. And I'm just going to pick on something, not that I'm against murals, but I saw that Measure G paid for a mural somewhere. Terrific. However, if I was looking at priorities, I would look at, the need of the fire response, the need of the police. I know that roads is the number one issue that you hear all the time from people. Our roads are awful. They remain awful. The sidewalks, when you have, like I do, a senior that I'm taking care of, to go with a walker from a high curb to the street without an ADA ramp is a big deal. And so when they improved the ones in our neighborhood, that was, I think, a correct priority. Now, I know in the philosophical world of figuring out what is nice to have and have to have, there are going to be differences. I understand that. But, especially when we move forward, because this thing sunsets in 2030, and it looks like we're going to run it in 26 or 28. I don't exactly know what the plans are. I just wonder whether it might make more sense to focus more specifically on big priorities, whether they be police or roads or whatever the big have-to-haves we have to have. Because when you hear things like, and I know this is not a Measure G issue, but our sewer pipes, we had some raw sewage in the street because the maintenance program was $300,000 in the hole. And you think, well, shouldn't that be in the have-to-have column as opposed to the nice-to-have column? So that's my worry moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any final comments?
Just thank you for the information. Like I said, this is my first meeting, and I think I learned an awful lot, especially from you, Peter. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. No action is required on this item. We're going to move on to consent agenda item, which is just the minutes. If I can get a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
Can I get a second, please? Okay, seconds, okay. Cool.
Motion made by Committee Member Caballero, seconded by Committee Member Novorian, to approve the minutes of April 17, 2025. Before we proceed with the roll call vote, if any member of the public would like to do public comment on this item. Seeing none, I will proceed with the roll call vote. Committee Member Caballero?
Yes.
Committee Member Field?
Yes.
Committee Member Novorian?
Yes.
Committee Member Salai?
Yes.
Chair Sandoval?
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Okay, so next is just adjournment. Usually when I run meetings, I always ask for a motion to adjourn. So at this time, can I get a motion to adjourn for 5:35? Okay. Okay. I always do it on my screen. Okay. Okay. Well, we adjourn this meeting then at 5:36. Huh?
There we go. Good job.